The first Metroid was a revolutionary game. It was the first game to break the video game norm and give players the ability to go wherever they wanted and do whatever they wanted, while exploring an endless maze and becoming stronger as they progressed through the world. The second game was equally as brilliant and did not fail to impress us yet again. And then came Super Metroid, a game so amazing that I could spend hours talking about why this is the best Super Nintendo game ever made, as well as one of the best games ever made. While many great sequels have been shown to improve upon their predecessors, Super Metroid manages to surpass the original game in nearly every category. The gameplay was so incredible, the graphics were so crisp and clean, and the controls were nearly perfect. And the difficulty was so fine-tuned. Playing through Super Metroid this past week made me realize just how lucky I am to still own my original cartridge, and how I pity all these kids nowadays who have no idea what they're missing out on. Okay, let's start off with the story for this game. The story is that after Samus polished off the remaining Metroids on their homeworld, she managed to save a baby Metroid that mistook her for its mother. She then took it to scientists where they discovered that the power of the Metroid could be used to benefit civilization. But not too long after she departs the station, she discovers that the station is under attack. She returns only to discover that the scientists have been killed and that the final Metroid has been stolen by her greatest enemy, Ridley. From there, Samus follows Ridley back to planet Zebes to retrieve the final Metroid, and that's where the game begins. The moment you land on Zebes, there's no enemies, no direction, no nothing. You are alone. Shortly after you cover some familiar ground, the game begins, and that's when you realize that Super Metroid is not a game, it's an experience. The game feels like no other game you will ever play. You feel free, you feel strong, you feel like you are Samus Aran. This is one of the few games I can think of where you actually feel like the character that you're playing as. And for a 16-bit game, that is more than an accomplishment. Now as the game begins, you don't have very many weapons in your arsenal or many abilities. But don't worry, because half the fun of playing Super Metroid is exploring the entire planet and finding items to upgrade your arm cannon, boost your jumping ability, make you run at light speed. There's so much to do in this game and so many items to find that it's overwhelming. And if you want to get the good ending, you'll have to do it all in under 3 hours. It sounds trivial, but if you play this game a lot, you'll be able to beat your time every time you replay it. The first time I played this game, it took me about 9 hours to beat the entire game. So what's my record for beating the time now, you might ask? Well, right there, about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Alright, let's talk about the planet itself. Zebes is an enormous maze with corridors that lead to secret rooms, save points, missile stations, and huge boss battles. The planet has so many areas that you have to revisit every time you acquire a new item, and you're constantly going to be backtracking to get some missiles you left behind, some super missiles or power bombs you couldn't get to before, and all those energy tanks that tease you. Speaking of which, I always try to get all the energy tanks every time I play this game. I don't know why, I guess I just have an OCD for collecting health power-ups in video games. Anyway, the boss battles are pretty epic too. All except for the Spore spawn, because he sucks, and he's boring, and too easy. The crate battle wasn't too bad at all. All you have to do is shoot missiles down his throat and he'll turn red, like a lot of bosses do in this game, and he'll die. When I got to Phantoon, I would always lose a lot of health because I never figured out how to dodge his wave of bluebell flames. It wasn't until now that I realized you can charge your beam and jump through his attacks without taking any damage. Since then, I've been able to beat him no problem. Now, I want to say that Dragon is a possible candidate for the easiest boss battle in video game history. All you have to do is let him grab you, and then use the grapple beam to pull yourself toward the electrical currents, and then just hold it there until he's dead. Now, Ridley is my favorite boss in the whole game. He's challenging, but somewhat easy if you stick to using super missiles. Now, the final confrontation between Mother Brain is the highlight of the game and hands down the second easiest boss behind Dragon. I lose more health getting to Mother Brain than I actually do when fighting her. At first, she's pretty easy. Just use the charge beam and whatever resources you have left to take her down. The music for this game is not only amazing, but also some of the best scores in video game history. Everything from the eerie music in the opening, to the caverns of Norfair, to the boss battles, the music for this game is outstanding. So what don't I like about the best Super Nintendo game ever made? Well, it may seem predictable already, but I hate the wall jump in this game. You see, to do the wall jump, you have to be spinning, then you have to watch for this animation that appears on Samus's body when she clings to a wall, and the instant you see that, you have to hit the jump button and steer the D-pad in the opposite direction. The good news is that if you can master the wall jump, you can get all the best items early on in the game. I don't know why, but I cannot do a right wall jump to save my own life. I can only do a left wall jump. And that's my only problem with this game. I just hate the wall jump. Aside from that, everything else is great and I have no other issues with this game. I can still say that playing Super Metroid has been one of the best experiences I've ever had playing a game. You feel so free in this open world and you become so powerful as the game continues. Every time you beat a boss or get an item you couldn't get before, you feel a sense of accomplishment, and you feel proud of yourself for getting this far. And that's how the whole game is. You will always feel satisfied every time you play this game. And I can barely name any other games that can do the same. You escape a doomed planet, you watch the planet blow up, and you see your ship fly away, and you now know what perfection feels like. After Super Metroid, we didn't get an official Metroid game until Metroid Fusion, the Metroid Prime series, and Metroid Other M. The Metroid Prime games are great games to play, and Fusion is pretty good too. Metroid Other M is the direct sequel to Super Metroid, and even though it's a fairly decent game, it's nowhere near as good as Super Metroid. The last thing that I can say is that if you can find a Super Metroid cart, get it, and don't ever part with it. I still have mine, and I'm proud to say that it is the holy grail of my Super Nintendo collection. Now if you don't mind, I have a mission to complete. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.